The receipt slipped from between the pages of Tom's planner like a guilty confession. I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't been organizing his home office, a task he'd normally protest, but he was too busy with his critical deadline to care. Tiffany and Company, $28,000, dated 3 months ago on our anniversary. I stood there, fingers trembling against the crisp paper, mind racing through every gift Tom had given me this year. A spa voucher, concert tickets. Nothing even close to this price tag. Nothing from Tiffany's. "Hey, hun," I called out, my voice steadier than I felt. "Do you need any of these old receipts?" Silence answered. Of course, another late night at the office. I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo of the receipt, and carefully returned it exactly where I'd found it. The planner went back on his desk, aligned perfectly with the edge, just as he always kept it. My name is Angela, and until this moment, I thought I had a perfect marriage. I poured myself a generous glass of wine and settled into my workspace. The sunroom I'd converted into a home office when my software engineering business took off. My fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up our joint account records. Tom had always insisted on managing our finances. "You're brilliant with code, Angel," he'd say, "but let me handle the money stuff." The transaction was there, clear as day, but the payment hadn't come from our joint account. It was from his personal account, the one he'd opened last year for business expenses. My phone buzzed. Tom. "Working late again, sweetheart. Don't wait up." I stared at the message, imagining him typing it with those manicured hands that hadn't touched me in weeks. "No problem," I replied. "Good luck with the deadline." The lie tasted bitter, but I forced myself to swallow it. $28,000 doesn't buy concert tickets or spa days. It buys diamonds. And somewhere in this city, someone was wearing my anniversary gift. I opened a new browser window and started searching for private investigators. Tom had taught me well. Always verify your suspicions before making accusations. Fine, I'd play by those rules. But as I typed, a different plan began forming in my mind. Why hire someone else when I had all the skills I needed? After all, following digital breadcrumbs was my specialty. And Tom had no idea just how good I was at finding things people wanted to keep hidden. I took another sip of wine, feeling the warmth of it spread through my chest. Let him think I was clueless. Let him come home to his perfect, trusting wife. I had work to do. Sunday dinner at Lisa's house had always been an exercise in restraint. Today, watching Tom charm his mother while spooning gravy over his roast beef, my fingers itched to throw the crystal wine glass at his perfectly composed face. "Angela, darling, you've barely touched your food," Lisa said, her concern as artificial as her pearls. "Tom tells me you've been working too hard lately." I forced a smile. "Actually, I've been thinking about our future. Tom and I should discuss our retirement planning soon." I watched him from the corner of my eye, noting how his fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Nonsense," Tom cut in, his voice carrying that patronizing warmth I used to mistake for affection. "Everything's under control. I've got our finances perfectly managed." Lisa beamed at her son. "Such a responsible provider. You know, Angela, Tom just made partner at the firm, the youngest in their history." "Did he?" I took a deliberate sip of wine. That must mean quite a pay increase. Perfect timing for some long-term planning. Tom's knuckles whitened around his fork. "Business bore you, Mother. Angela, we can discuss this later." "Of course." I smiled, thinking of the financial records I'd uncovered last night. 3 separate accounts I wasn't supposed to know about. Wire transfers to an offshore account. Tom wasn't just a cheater. He was hiding money. "Oh, before I forget," Lisa chirped, "I ran into Maya Thompson at the country club yesterday. Such a lovely girl from Tom's office. She mentioned the wonderful job you did on that Morrison account, Tom." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Tom coughed, reaching for his water glass. Maya? I kept my voice light. I don't think you've mentioned her before, Tom. New hire, junior associate. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Nothing special. I pulled out my phone, making a show of checking my calendar. We should have her over for dinner sometime. Build team spirit, right? She's usually quite busy, Tom said quickly. Too quickly. I'm sure she is. I stood up, smoothing my dress. If you'll excuse me, I need to make a quick call. Client emergency. In the bathroom, I pulled up the banking app I'd created to track Tom's hidden accounts. A new transaction had posted. Another jewelry purchase, this time from Cartier. I zoomed in on the receipt image, a delicate bracelet with a heart charm. My wedding ring suddenly felt like it was burning my finger. I twisted it, remembering Tom's proud face when he'd slipped it on. Now I wondered if he'd been practicing his lies even then. Time to see what else you're hiding, darling, I whispered to my reflection. The woman in the mirror smiled back, and for the first time, I recognized the predator in my own eyes. The private investigator's photos spread across my desk like a deck of tarot cards, each one revealing a future I should have seen coming. Tom and Maya, sharing intimate dinners at restaurants I'd never heard of. Tom leading her into the Ritz-Carlton, his hand possessively pressed against her lower back. Maya wearing the Tiffany necklace that should have been mine. There's more, Sam said, his lawyer's composure cracking as he watched me examine each photograph. The investigator found evidence of, I know about the money. I pushed away from my desk, pacing the length of my home office. 3 hidden accounts, regular transfers to the Caymans. He's been planning this for months. Sam's silence spoke volumes. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. Angela, as your brother, I need to ask, what are you planning? I laughed, a sharp sound that didn't quite mask the rage underneath. Nothing illegal, if that's what you're worried about. I'm just going to give Tom exactly what he deserves. My phone buzzed, a text from Tom. Working late again, don't wait up. I showed Sam the message. He's with her right now, at their special little hideaway in the Ritz. And did you know he's been charging their room service to our joint account, billing it as business expenses? I pulled up the banking app I'd created. Look at this. Champagne, oysters, chocolate-covered strawberries. How fucking cliché can you get? Sam reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I can recommend a good divorce attorney? No. I turned to face him, feeling eerily calm. Not yet. First, I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with. Maya's not just some fling. She's helping him hide something bigger. Those offshore accounts. The money's moving too regularly, too systematically. You think it's fraud? I think my loving husband is about to get caught in something messy, and he's creating his escape route. I smiled, remembering how Tom always praised my beautiful mind while dismissing my financial concerns. He forgot what I do for a living. Following digital breadcrumbs is my specialty. Sam's phone chimed. His wife, probably wondering why he was still at his sister's house at midnight. Promise me you won't do anything rash. I walked him to the door, hugging him tightly. I promised to be very, very careful. After he left, I returned to my office and opened my laptop. Tom thought he was so clever with his secret accounts and hidden transfers. He had no idea I'd already mapped his entire network, tracked every transaction, documented every lie. I pulled up the email I'd drafted earlier, the one addressed to the SEC's fraud division. My finger hovered over the send button as I thought about Tom and Maya, probably tangled in expensive hotel sheets right now, thinking they were untouchable. Careful, I whispered, doesn't mean merciful. I pressed send. The SEC notification landed in my inbox at 3 a.m. My hands trembled as I read it. They were launching a formal investigation into Tom's company. My anonymous tip had worked better than expected. Tom stumbled home an hour later, reeking of expensive scotch and cheap excuses. I pretended to be asleep as he showered, washing away evidence of his night with Maya. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here he was, destroying evidence while I was creating a trail that would bury him. Morning brought chaos. Tom's phone wouldn't stop ringing. I watched him pace our kitchen, his face growing paler with each call. "This is impossible," he barked into his phone. "Who could have—" "No, destroy nothing. That would only make it worse." His eyes darted to me, but I kept my attention on my coffee, the picture of ignorant domestic bliss. "Everything okay, honey?" I asked, measuring each word carefully. "Just work stuff." He loosened his tie. "Listen, Angel, I need to transfer some money from our joint account. For lawyers, it's nothing serious, just—" "Of course." I smiled, thinking of the documents I'd already filed, transferring most of our assets into my name. "Whatever you need." His relief was palpable and pathetic. My phone buzzed. "Lisa." "Darling, have you seen the news? They're saying terrible things about Tom's firm. I'm sure it's all a mistake." "I'm sure it is," I replied, watching Tom frantically type on his laptop. He was probably trying to access those offshore accounts, the ones I'd quietly frozen yesterday. "We should all have dinner tonight," Lisa continued. "Show our support. Maya mentioned she's worried sick about—" "Maya?" I interrupted, my voice sharp enough to make Tom's head snap up. "You've been talking to Maya?" "Oh, yes. We had lunch last week. Such a lovely girl. She cares so much about Tom's. I mean, about the company's reputation." I ended the call, bile rising in my throat. His mother and his mistress, having cozy lunches while I played the oblivious wife. The betrayal ran deeper than I'd imagined. Tom was staring at his screen, face ashen. "The accounts," he whispered. "They're locked. Everything's locked." "That sounds stressful," I said, standing to leave. "Maybe Maya can help. She seems quite involved in company matters." His expression shifted from confusion to dawning horror. "Angela, I have meetings all day," I cut him off. "Don't wait up." Walking out, I heard him frantically dialing, probably calling Maya. Let them panic together. The SEC investigation was just the beginning. I had enough evidence to destroy them both. And the best part? They'd handed me every weapon I needed. The divorce papers sat in my briefcase like a loaded gun while I watched Tom charm his way through another family dinner. Lisa had insisted on hosting, claiming we needed family unity during this difficult time. Difficult for Tom, maybe. His company's stock had plummeted 40% since the SEC investigation began. "More wine, Angela?" Lisa's hand trembled slightly as she reached for my glass. The morning papers had been particularly brutal, suggesting insider trading at the highest levels of Tom's firm. "Thank you." I smiled, noting how Tom's jaw clenched. He knew I rarely drank more than one glass. Tonight, I was on my third. "I've been thinking," I announced, swirling the dark liquid, "about that lovely bracelet from Cartier, the one with the heart charm." The clatter of Tom's fork against china echoed through the suddenly silent dining room. Lisa looked confused. "What bracelet, dear?" "Oh, Tom bought it a few months ago, though I never received it." I turned to face him directly. "Who has it now, darling?" "Maya." Lisa's gasp was almost comical. Tom's face drained of color. "I don't know what you're—" "Please," I cut him off. "Let's not insult anyone's intelligence. Maya's probably wearing it right now, isn't she? Along with that Tiffany necklace from our anniversary." "Angela," Lisa intervened. "Surely there's been a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," I said, pulling out my phone, "is that your son thought he could hide his affair in our joint accounts." I pulled up the banking records. "Would you like to see the hotel receipts, Lisa? The jewelry purchases, the offshore transfers. Tom lunged for my phone, but I was faster. Careful, darling. The SEC might be interested in your reaction to financial records. You, he whispered, realization dawning. You reported us. I reported financial irregularities at your firm. Maya's involvement was just a bonus. I stood, retrieving the divorce papers. Your girlfriend should be more careful about leaving her fingerprints on company documents. You've ruined everything, Tom snarled, mask finally slipping. No, you did that yourself. I placed the papers before him. Sign these, or tomorrow I forward everything, including evidence of Maya's involvement in the fraud, to the prosecutors. Lisa started crying, but I barely heard her. Tom's hands shook as he reached for the papers, his expensive watch catching the light. Another gift meant to buy Maya's silence, no doubt. You really are a cold bitch, he muttered, scrawling his signature. I gathered the papers, feeling strangely hollow. This should have been satisfying, watching him crumble. Instead, I felt tired, empty. Goodbye, Lisa, I said softly. I'm sorry it ended this way. Walking out, I heard Tom's phone buzz, probably Maya, wondering why he wasn't answering her increasingly panicked calls. Let them comfort each other. They'd need it for what was coming next. I found Tom waiting in my home office, surrounded by scattered papers and an open laptop. My laptop, the one containing everything. The evidence, the SEC documents, the surveillance photos. Looking for something? I kept my voice steady, though my heart hammered against my ribs. Maya's been arrested. His voice was raw, desperate. They're saying she helped orchestrate the whole fraud scheme, that she was the mastermind. Isn't that what you planned? I moved closer, noting the half-empty whiskey bottle on my desk. Frame the ambitious young mistress when things went south? He laughed, a hollow sound that raised the hair on my neck. You think you're so clever, Angela, always 3 steps ahead, but you missed something crucial. Did I? Maya wasn't just my mistress. He turned the laptop toward me. She's Lisa's daughter, my half-sister. The room tilted sideways. Photos filled the screen, old ones, showing a younger Lisa with a baby. Hospital records, adoption papers. That's impossible. Lisa gave her up for adoption before marrying my father. Maya found out, sought me out. We weren't having an affair. We were hiding the truth about Lisa's past. The jewelry, birthday gifts, trying to make up for lost time. The hotel rooms, business meetings, planning how to tell everyone. The offshore accounts, trust funds for Maya, protected from my father's family. His eyes burned with something beyond anger. But you were so convinced of my betrayal, you never asked, never questioned, just destroyed everything. My carefully constructed revenge crumbled. I'd been so certain, so righteous in my assumptions. The SEC investigation will reveal nothing because there was no fraud, just a brother trying to protect his sister. He stood, swaying slightly. But now Maya's facing charges because your anonymous tip painted her as my accomplice. My sister is going to prison because you couldn't imagine a truth where you weren't the victim. The weight of what I'd done crashed over me. I'd been so focused on my narrative of betrayal, I'd created a tragedy far worse than the one I'd imagined. I can fix this, I whispered. I can tell them. Tell them what? That you fabricated evidence, manipulated financial records, committed actual fraud to prove imaginary fraud? He moved past me toward the door. You wanted revenge, Angela. Congratulations. You've destroyed an innocent woman's life, torn apart a family, and proven yourself far more capable of betrayal than I ever was. He left me standing there, surrounded by the wreckage of my certainty. My phone buzzed. Sam, probably with news about Maya's arrest. I let it ring, staring at the photos on my screen. The truth had been there all along, hidden beneath my perfect plan for revenge. I'd become the very thing I'd accused Tom of being, and I had no idea how to make it right. The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Maya's face as I sat across from her in the interview room. Her wrists were cuffed to the table, the Cartier bracelet replaced by cold steel. "Why are you here?" Her voice was flat, empty. "To fix what I broke." I placed a USB drive on the table. "This contains evidence that I fabricated the fraud allegations, all of it. Your arrest, the SEC investigation, it was all based on my lies." She studied me with Lisa's eyes. How had I missed that resemblance? "You'll go to prison." "Yes. Why now? Why confess?" "Because revenge poisoned me, made me see things that weren't there." I pushed the drive toward her. "I destroyed an innocent person's life because I couldn't imagine a truth different from what I wanted to believe." The door opened. Tom entered, followed by two detectives. His face was haggard, aged years in days. "The SEC wants to speak with you," he said to Maya, then turned to me. "You didn't have to come." "Yes, I did." I stood facing the detectives. "I'm ready to make my statement." "Wait." Maya's voice cracked. "Tom, show her." He hesitated, then pulled out his phone, displaying an email. My vision blurred as I read it. Evidence of actual corporate fraud, orchestrated by Tom's father years ago. The offshore accounts weren't for Maya's trust fund. They were hiding decades of financial crimes. "We were gathering evidence," Maya explained. "The late nights, the secret meetings. We were building a case against him. The jewelry was just compensation for my silence while we worked." "You could have told me," I whispered. "I wanted to," Tom said. "But you were so quick to assume the worst, so eager to believe I was betraying you. It was easier to let you think that than risk my father discovering what we knew." The irony crushed my chest. My revenge had nearly exposed their investigation, almost protecting the real criminal while punishing the innocent. "The evidence on that drive," Maya nodded toward the USB. "It could help us, prove how easy it is to manipulate financial records, show how my father's been doing it for years." "You'd trust me after what I did?" "Trust isn't the word I'd use." Tom's laugh was bitter. "But we need your skills. And maybe this is how we all find redemption." I looked between them, the sister and brother I'd nearly destroyed, offering me a chance to make things right. Not forgiveness, not yet, but purpose. "Tell me what you need." The handcuffs clicked open. Maya rubbed her wrists, her eyes meeting mine. "First, we need you to help us understand exactly how you broke into those accounts, because my father's security is much better." The courtroom fell silent as Tom's father was led away in handcuffs. His empire of lies, built over decades, collapsed in less than 6 hours of testimony. I watched Maya squeeze Tom's hand as their father turned to glare at them one final time before disappearing through the heavy wooden doors. Lisa sat alone in the back row, her face a mask of dignified grief. When she caught my eye, she gave me a slight nod. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. We'd all played our parts in this tragedy, driven by different kinds of love and fear. Outside, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. I hung back, letting Tom and Maya handle the cameras. They'd become the faces of corporate whistleblowing, while my role remained carefully hidden. Better that way. My skills were more useful in the shadows. "Ready?" Sam appeared at my elbow, briefcase in hand. My brother, who'd stuck by me even when I'd lost my way. Almost. I watched Tom field questions, his voice steady as he described discovering his father's crimes. He was good at this, better than he'd been at lying. Maybe that meant something. Maya broke away from the crowd, walking over to me. She wore the Cartier bracelet again, a reminder of how wrong first impressions could be. The SEC wants to hire me, she said, as a fraud investigator. You'll be good at it. I learned from the best. Her smile was sharp, both how to catch criminals and how to think like one. The barbs stung, but I'd earned it. Maya, save it. We're even now. She glanced at Tom. He's different with you gone. Lighter somehow. Maybe we all needed to break apart to find our real shapes. I thought of the divorce papers, signed last week without drama or fanfare. Take care of each other. We will. She hesitated. The thing about revenge is, sometimes it shows us truths we weren't looking for. I watched her rejoin her brother, her real family. The truth had been there all along, hidden beneath layers of assumptions and lies. My revenge had nearly destroyed them, but in doing so, it had forced everyone's secrets into the light. Sam touched my arm. Your flight's in 2 hours. I nodded, turning away from the courthouse steps. My laptop held job offers from 3 different security firms, all eager to hire someone who could break their systems and rebuild them stronger. You never told them, did you? Sam asked as we reached his car. About the second set of offshore accounts? No. I smiled, thinking of the millions their father had hidden so well that even Tom and Maya hadn't found them. Money that would now fund anonymous donations to whistleblower protection programs. Some truths serve better as secrets. Sam shook his head, but he was smiling too. Ready to go? I looked back one last time, watching my old life dissolve into memory. Yes, I think I finally am.